Thank you, Your Honor. Before you today on State versus Christopher Poklar on files 19 CR 797, 798, or excuse me, 19 CR 798 and 20 CR 162. We're here today for sentencing. The State of Ohio has had the opportunity to review the pre-sentence investigation report and is prepared to go forward. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mulkey.
Yes, Your Honor, we are prepared to go forward as well. Thank you, Your Honor. My client is 45 years old. He does have a history using drugs, no doubt about that. He has an employer here that he's worked for on and off for the last 20 years, construction, Your Honor. Not only does he make a living working with Dave, but he's also in the process of buying a home from him that he stays in, and he's been making payments. So we'd like to get back to that. He's aware he has some financial obligations for child support for his 11-year-old son, Isaac, so he wants to get back on track with that. And the thing is, what is he going to do to convince the court that if the court places him on community control, that he's not going to go back to using again? He indicated he's well aware of the fact that he is on, to say the least, a very thin rope, and that if he violates probation, tests dirty, for drugs, that prison is his next stop, very likely. So we would ask the court to place him on community control, or whatever treatment and other sanctions are appropriate. Sort of give him
I have no idea what's appropriate, because he stopped coming around 5 and 6 years ago. So I don't know where he's been, what he's been doing. I get different stories based on who I talk to. So I don't have the slightest idea what's appropriate for him.
May I continue? Thank you, Your Honor. He can address those issues with the court himself. It might be effective coming from him regarding the time that he was away. He did recognize and does recognize that he does have an immense problem with drugs. He did mention treatment.
Well, but he said after he went to prison, he came out and he was clean all these years. And that's not true.
I think there's more to it than that. I think that the court is absolutely correct. That is not true, and I think he can elaborate on that further, Your Honor. Furthermore, he did mention treatments such as Concord Pines, and he's going to do everything that he can within his power. The choice is up to him, not anyone else. The court, probation, and the programs that are available can only do so much. He's the one who has to want to do it, and his record seems to indicate otherwise. However, each day is a new day and a new opportunity to turn things around, perhaps with his home in the balance and his child's welfare in the balance. He'll come to some sort of a realization.
I assume his child's welfare has been in the balance for 11 years.
It has, Your Honor.
And that hasn't really impacted him.
Well, yes. I think I will transition now and allow him to answer the court's questions with my request to the court of considering community control sanctions, Your Honor, and not putting him back in prison at this time, allowing him to address his drug habit. Thank you.
What's your story?
Do you want me to stand, John?
Whatever you want, I don't care.
What's my story? Where do you want me to start?
Well, I'd like to know what the hell happened to you 6 years ago when you just disappeared from here.
When I came in on the original charge, I think it was the conveyance or whatever the charges were. I had just gotten out of prison. I was in a halfway house, Harbor Lights. I had dropped a dirty urine there, and they were going to violate me. And I think if I remember correctly, I was going for a pre-sentence investigation here. It was the next day, and I think I dropped dirty for that one. And I knew I was going to get locked up, so I just quit showing up. I was working the whole time. I mean, I worked with my dad. I worked with Dave. I was going out of town a lot for work down in Washington, D.C., where Dave has another office. Yes, I was using. No, I wasn't using heroin. I just went to I was using other
I don't
things.
have the slightest idea whether what you're telling me is true or false.
Okay, how can I?
You can't. Okay.
Okay.
You can tell me whatever you want to tell me, but all I'm telling you is I don't have any faith in what you're telling me.
Okay. I don't know what you're asking or what.
I'm not asking you anything. You say whatever you want to say.
Okay.
You said you got clean. Tell them about that.
I mean, I've been clean while I've been locked up since October. I mean, I haven't touched anything, you know, in the last 8 months or 7 months or whatever. Before that, I know I was not clean, but I was not doing heroin and that.
What were you doing?
A little bit of methamphetamines and Suboxone.
That's it?
Yes.
Where'd you get the oxy?
Never had oxy.
What did you say? Methamphetamine and what?
Suboxone.
Suboxone. Where'd you get the Suboxone?
Just random people. Up until,
Well, why'd you stop doing heroin if you in fact stopped doing heroin?
all the people that were dying.
Okay. So as long as you weren't dying, you were okay just keeping on getting high.
No, because it wasn't even heroin anymore. It wasn't enjoyable. It
Well,
wasn't.
why were you doing meth?
Because it kind of took the urge away, I guess. It substituted it, I guess.
Well, that's a new one. Where'd you get the meth?
If you're asking for a name, I don't have an actual name.
Well, where'd you get it?
Down off of 152nd.
We're at an 152nd.
Whitcomb and St. Clair,
Why'd you go there?
because it was close to home.
How'd you know to go there? Just kind of
Just
hang out on the corner or what?
People talking.
What people?
People that I worked with, people that I hung around with, people that I knew.
Well, where were you working during all this time?
With Dave and for my father and a couple other guys. I guess, independent subcontractor, concrete masonry. But I'll go, you know, if things are slow, I'll go work with whoever I need to make ends meet.
How do you work when you're high?
It wasn't even, like I said, it wasn't even, I didn't even get high anymore. It was just to keep from getting sick.
Sick from what?
The dope.
Huh?
Dope sick from the opiates.
So meth cures your dope sick from opiates.
It doesn't cure it. It
Keeps you from getting sick.
takes that craving away.
Well, then you must have been having a big craving since October.
No, I was on Suboxone in county jail in
In what county jail? Downtown?
Cuyahoga, yes.
They're giving you Suboxone in jail?
Yes, they give it here too.
That's pretty goddamn stupid.
They give it in Lake County jail
Jesus
too.
Christ, what the hell's going on? What are you going to do with your life? You're 45?
Yes.
What are you doing?
Obviously,
Besides pissing it away, what are you doing?
nothing,
Why?
because drugs are more important.
Why?
I don't know that answer.
You don't know that. Why don't you find out the goddamn answer? What am I supposed to do with you now, 6 years later?
I don't have the answer to that.
Well, give me an answer. It's your life. Give me an answer.
Give me a chance
Chance at what?
to make things right,
What does that mean?
to get clean, to take care of my son.
How are you going to get clean if you're taking dope?
I've been clean. I
You've
don't
been
need to
clean.
get
You're taking
clean.
Suboxone. Why are you taking Suboxone?
To stay off dope.
To stay off. How long are you going to be on Suboxone?
I don't know.
You
I'm not
don't
on
know.
it now.
It's your life, and you don't know the answer. What doctor have you consulted about how long you're going to be on the goddamn Suboxone?
I haven't.
You have. Why not?
Because that was never brought up.
It was never brought up. Why didn't you bring it up?
Because I was in jail, and they brought it to me, and they said, "Here, this will make you feel better," and that was that.
What was it? What did they tell you it was?
Subutex,
Okay.
Suboxone. I mean, Metro Health.
Are they giving out Suboxone in the jail?
If they're on medically assisted treatment when they come in,
The fuck does that mean?
they, Suboxone, they'll keep them on it if they do not, if they have continuity of care.
God, what does that mean? What the hell does that mean? Why are they giving an addictive substance to somebody who's addicted to drugs?
Is that a question directed at me?
No. It's a question directed to everybody, but nobody has an answer.
Okay, Your Honor,
You got an answer?
I believe I do.
All right.
I was in a severe accident 12 years ago. I had 5 neck surgeries. I've got fusions in my back, I've got pins, I've got spinal cord fusion. I have permanent nerve damage from 3rd and 4th surgery. I've been on Suboxone 7K for the last 5 years. I was a problem. 12 years ago when I had my accident, they were giving me Oxycontin, and they got up to the, I was taking 5 oxycodones a day. It's a lot. I was doing a pain management doctor, and because of my permanent damage, that was why they gave me I'm taking Suboxone shots once a month now. I've been taking them for 5 years. That was how I was able to get off of the pills. That's medically assisted. So I think for some people, I didn't go to the heroin aspect of it. I understand the opiates. That's all part of the problem from these pharmaceutical companies that created this problem. But I could not own have 2 offices and 2 businesses if it wasn't for Suboxone.
What's his story as it relates to you?
I've known Christopher for 21 years. He's come down to Washington, D.C. to work for me many a times. He has never, I should say never, maybe once in all those times was he impaired where he could not do his job. And most of the time, I didn't know that he was high. He was high. He was high. I don't know. But he's a phenomenal worker. He always shows up. He's the first person.
Doesn't show up here.
Well, for work he did for me.
Obviously, in his life, this shit's not important. That stuff's important. Why is that?
Probably because I was high. I mean, I told you I dropped 30. I told you that's why I stopped showing up. I mean, nobody wants to go to jail.
Well, where are you now?
In jail.
Okay.
But I'm sober. I mean, I definitely don't want to go high. I mean, I've had enough time to, a little bit of sober time to think about it, I guess. Not I guess, I know.
Well, how long were you in prison back in 19 or 20?
I did 18 months all total.
Why didn't that cure you of that problem?
Because I got out in I think I only did 4 months there, and I went to the halfway house. I just finished up the last year.
Which halfway house?
Harbor Light.
And you disappeared from there?
Right.
That was
Well, COVID hit, and yeah, I walked.
Well, that was a great plan.
No, it wasn't.
The Harbor Light Drug House. That was a great plan.
I mean, that's what the state has set up.
I know it has it set up because they don't really give a shit about what goes on anyway.
And I didn't know that going into it. I had never been to a treatment before. I'd never tried anything before. So I had no
See,
idea.
you've been monkeying around with this stuff for a quarter century, haven't you?
A quarter century? No.
How old were you when you started using drugs?
I wasn't, maybe my mid-30s, I would say. I drank a lot before that, but using drugs, yeah.
Then why did you magically start using drugs?
I broke my jaw. They put me on liquid Percocet when I left the hospital. I drank it like it was cough syrup, and I got dope sick. And the next thing I know, I was buying Percocets, and then the next thing I know, I was doing heroin. That was back in 2014.
How can I put you on probation like you're requesting if you don't show up? And you're going to tell me that you will show up, right? How do I put you on probation if you don't show up for 6 years? And not of your own volition, right? You didn't show up because you turned yourself in. You showed up because you got caught, right? Okay. So how do I put you on probation if you don't show up?
Ankle monitor?
People have cut off ankle monitors before.
That thought never crossed my mind, but okay, yeah, I see that. I'm not, I don't even know how to say this. I don't have the answer for you, Mr. O'Donnell. I'm just looking for a fair shot. I mean, probation, if I miss 30 or...
What's a fair shot?
I guess, I don't know. Probation, a chance to fix all this, excuse my language, fucked up shit that I've done in the past.
How do you fix it?
By doing the right thing.
What's the right thing?
By getting caught up on my child support, by going to work.
How far are you behind on child support?
Quite a bit.
Okay. Why were you driving a car in Menor back in the fall?
My dad will back me up on this. It was his job. I poured a driveway with him. One of the guys got, it was my truck. I'm not going to deny that. One of the guys got in the truck, backed it up to load up the tools, left it running. The truck hopped out of gear. There was nobody driving the vehicle. The truck hopped out of gear. I tried running to stop it. The truck ran over my foot when I went to go get in it because the door was open and got caught on the mailbox and it hit another vehicle. Dad, is that the truth?
When's the last time you had a license?
A long time ago.
Why?
Because I kept getting driving under suspension after. I kept getting another suspension.
Why didn't you get your license?
Because I had a hold in California.
For what?
A probation violation
For what?
from an OVI.
Okay. What were you doing in California?
I moved out there right after high school for work.
Well, how are you going to get a license? You're in the concrete,
I don't know.
You're in the concrete business. You need to have vehicles. How are you going to get a license?
I don't know. That was one of the questions I had for you. If there was any.
I don't have answers. Okay. I've been sitting here for 10 and a half years and I haven't had one goddamn answer to a problem. I don't have the slightest idea how you get a license. You know who's got to figure out how to get a license?
Me.
Why did parole send you back to prison in January?
Because I had to finish up what time I had left from walking out of the halfway house.
Why did it take them 4 years to catch up with you? Of course, it took us 5 years to catch up with you. You weren't reporting, right?
No. I mean, I was on the run from them, too.
Okay. What's with this house you're talking about buying?
I've already been making payments on it for the last 10 years.
To who?
Dave.
And so what's left on the land contract?
95,000.
How far are you behind in child support?
I think when I went there, they took me there the day after they picked me up a month ago. I went over there. I think
Over where?
To juvenile courts.
Over here?
Yes. I think the amount that they had me in front of them for a month ago was $1,500. So I'm not insanely. I had my son for the first 5-6 years. We were co-parenting, whatever you want to call it. It wasn't like I've been out of his life the whole time. Then she hooked up with some other guy and just disappeared and wouldn't let me see him, so I stopped paying.
So when do you see him?
I don't. She won't answer my calls, nothing. And being that I had warrants out, there wasn't much I could do about it.
Where does he live?
Eastlake somewhere.
When is the last time you saw him?
5 years ago,
Okay.
6 years ago.
Why? Why 5 or 6 years ago?
Because she moved out from where she was at with this new boyfriend of hers and would not block my calls and everything else. And it wasn't like I could go to the juvenile services or anything like that because I had a warrant out for me.
So it was more important for you to stay out there and then not see him? Is that what you're telling me?
It's what it sounds like, yes. But
well, that's what it is, isn't it? You had two choices. Go over there and start to get a visitation order or a custody order, or not go over there. The reason you didn't go over there is because you didn't want to get arrested on a warrant, right?
Yes.
Okay. So that was more important to you than seeing your son. Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I mean, you don't really believe that, but that's what you're telling me, because I don't know what the other answer is.
There isn't another answer.
Right.
No, I don't want to believe it, but there isn't another answer.
So now I'm supposed to sit here and pretend that 6 years later everything's okay. right?
I wouldn't say okay. I mean, it's got to be dealt with one way or another. I mean,
Well, your way of dealing with it is for me to put you on probation so you can go on about your life, right? Right?
yes.
Okay. The biggest problem here is not that, at least in the period of 19 and 20, you were a hopeless drug addict. That's not the biggest problem, okay? Because hopeless drug addicts come in and out of the doors every day, all day. Your problem is you don't like to show up and therefore deal with the problem. That's your problem. You just kind of hope it goes away by taking a little meth to take the edge off. Driving here and there even though you don't have a license because it's part of the job. Not seeing your son because it gets in the way of you being out and about instead of in a blue uniform. You just kind of like to skate on by and not do what you're supposed to do. Your history dictates that or shows that. You haven't had a license forever, and you don't really give a shit. You're driving anyway. You seem rather selfish to me. Why is that?
Because it looks like it's all about me.
Hasn't it been all about you?
I
mean, Mr. Osborne here has had that business for 21 years. I think that's what he said. Right?
No,
Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. I mean, he's got to get up and do stuff every day to make the business work. He's got to deal with knuckleheads like you that may or may not be there, may or may not be high. And he's done all that with this debilitating injury that he had. Because he had a desire to do it. Dad's been running that business for a long time, employing knuckleheads like you. And you don't really give a shit about that. You just float in and out, you know, picking up work here, picking up work there, getting high, doing whatever you want to do, avoiding your responsibilities. You're like you're stuck on 16. When are you going to get unstuck off of 16?
I think I have.
Ah, it's a miracle.
It's not a miracle. I'm just fed up with dealing with this
Well, see,
stuff
and once again, I would have thought that how many times have you been to prison? Once?
once.
Okay. I would have thought that would have cured you of being fed up with this shit. But it didn't. And I don't have the slightest idea why. And I don't think you do either. You got anything else to tell me?
No.
Mr. Poklar, do you want to say anything?
I do, but I don't think there's enough time. I just would love to see this kid get his head out of his ass
Me too.
and do what he's capable of.
What's he capable of doing?
He's very good at everything he does. He just doesn't realize how much time he's wasted. I would love to see him just, you know, for lack of a better term, blossom and do what he's capable of.
Isn't that a hell of a thing to hear your father say when you're 45 years old?
Yeah.
And you've demonstrated the ability to do things, but you won't do it?
Yeah.
Now, imagine 27 years from now, and your son is 38, and you're 72 sitting back here. Are you going to be saying the same thing
No,
to your son?
no,
How do I know that?
because I'm not going to let it happen to him.
Why not? It's worked for you.
It didn't work for me. It's just the way I guess it's the lifestyle I led, but I'm not going to let him do it. I'm not going to let him make the same mistakes I made.
Well, the first thing you have to do is reestablish contact with him.
Which I can do now that I have everything cleared up.
Well, not everything, right? Isn't there a mentor problem still, Miss Crook?
Yes, there is a warrant on a matter.
Mr. Geigrich?
Thank you, Your Honor. The State of Ohio entrusts this court to fashion a sentence that's appropriate. Thank you.
Have a seat. I'm going to place you on community control for 5 years. What treatment for drugs and alcohol do you think you need?
I don't have the answer to that. I don't know.
Well,
I'm not a professional.
I don't know. I don't have the answer either. We've clearly established that neither one of us have the answer. As you sit here now with your history, recent and expanded, what treatment do you think you need?
Constant urine screenings.
That's not treatment. That's babysitting.
I don't know the answer to that. I don't know what treatments. I have never been to treatment other than going to Stella Mars from Cuyahoga County and to Harbor Light from prison.
Those are just holding tanks, right?
Trap houses, more or less. So to answer your question, I don't know what kind of treatment is out there because I've never pursued it. Are you asking me if I mean, obviously you're not from what I've gathered, you're not very fond of the Suboxone program. Is that what you're referring to?
No, I'm not. But that's beside the point.
Okay. I guess
that's more like in a situation like you masking instead of treatment.
Could you elaborate on your question?
No, it's a simple question. You've been sitting in prison since January.
No, October.
Okay.
But okay.
All right, even better. Okay, so you've been sitting there for 6 months. So did you think at all about what the plan is coming out?
Stay away from the people that I was with. Stay away from pretty much everything I was doing before. People, places, all of it. Other than, I mean, obviously I can't switch careers at 46 years old, and it seems to be all there is in the trades. But I mean, obviously nothing I was doing was working right.
Okay.
Other than
so
going to...
never really dawned on you to kind of figure out a way forward as far as treatment is concerned.
I don't know what you mean by treat. I don't know what you mean by treat. You mean like...
Well, if you don't even know what that means after sitting to finish out your prison sentence for 6 months, then what's the point?
I'm sorry?
You don't know what treatment means.
I do, but there's different... I mean, are you asking... I don't know how to phrase it.
I guess what I'm asking you to do is to take responsibility for you, okay? Instead of, aren't you sick of people like me telling you what you have to do? Don't you get sick of that?
Absolutely.
Okay. So why don't you figure out what you have to do and go about doing it so you don't have to have people like me telling you what you have to do in order to stay out of prison for a long time? Why don't you take ownership in your life?
That is my plan, or that...
See, the two guys sitting back here took ownership in their lives, okay? By being productive, by starting something and being productive so that it continues. They took ownership in their lives. You, on the other hand, just show up when there's some work to do to fill the time. No?
No.
No.
No, I've
Well-
been a best friend of Dave. Him and I have been best friends for, and my dad will tell you the same thing. I'm the first one there. I'm
That's
the
great.
last
Then
one
why
there.
have you let Dave down by being in prison the last 6 months? If he's your best friend, why did you let him down? Not to mention, we've already
Because
gone
I
over
was
your
selfish.
son,
Because I was
letting your
selfish.
son down for 6 years, okay? So, here, they take responsibility for their lives, you don't. And not having the slightest clue what you should do going forward as far as treatment is very enlightening to me.
I thought I can't be around the people that I was around.
No shit.
I mean,
You can't hang around on 152nd on the corner waiting for meth. No shit. That's enlightening. Can't hang around at the BP station on 185th and Neff waiting for drugs. No shit. I think you came in here just trying to figure out a way to get through this and get
No,
the hell
but-
out of here with the least damage possible. That's what I think. On each of the cases, you're going to serve 45 days in the Lake County Jail with credit for 4 on the 797 and credit for 4 on the 798. And then at the earliest time available, you're going to get in the jail treatment program and complete the jail treatment program and follow all recommendations. Now, you have any idea what the jail treatment program is?
yes,
Okay, what?
I've done it.
You've done it. You
Yes.
just told me you never had any treatment. When did you do the jail treatment?
It was in the pre-sentence investigation. I think back in 13 or 14.
Okay. Didn't work, did it?
No,
Why not?
because I didn't want it to.
Okay. So you're to have no drugs or alcohol and you'll be screened. You're going to do the decision points program. Complete that and follow recommendations. You're going to obtain and maintain full employment. That means full employment. That doesn't mean you work whenever you want to work. You're going to get a valid driver's license. Is crook any other terms?
Just if you wanted to do a mental health evaluation or order any AA meetings.
You understand the terms?
Yes.
Your Honor, how about get current on his child support?
I don't care what, he's got to figure out if he wants to be in his son's life or not. Any question about the terms?
The JTP and that you said it didn't work. I'm still doing it, correct?
Oh yeah, you're doing it.
Okay.
And you can do one of two things when you get in there. You can either stare at the wall and twiddle your thumbs like you did last time, or you can pay attention to try to figure out what you have to do once the program's over, so you're not back here in the blue uniform. It's up to you. I don't care what you do. If you don't comply with the terms, the state will file a motion to terminate your community control, and if I find you violated on these 3 cases, you'll go to prison for 42 months. You understand that?
Yes.
42 months. Now, who's going to be his PO? Jamie, do you know?
Dave Tompkins, Colby.
Okay. So the first time you get out in 30 or 40 days, if I were you, you do whatever you want, okay? Because your history demonstrates you do whatever you want anyway. If I were you, I'd have like written down on a piece of paper for your probation officer what exactly you have to do in order to get a driver's license. And you asked me, you said you were going to ask me how you do that. Well, if I were you, I'd call the BMV in Columbus and talk to somebody and find out exactly what they tell you have to do. That's what I would do if I were you. But your history is you just kind of do whatever you want. So do whatever you want. Okay? But if you come back here, you're going. You understand that?
Yes.
And the costs and supervision fees are part of your probation. Anything else, Mr. Geigrich?
Well, forfeiture, contraband, and.
Forfeited. Mr. Mulkey,
Nothing further, Your Honor. Thank you.
why don't you try something different? For the next 45 years. You profess that you're a friend to this gentleman. Why don't you try acting like that? Why don't you try acting like a good son to your father? Why don't you try acting like a good father to your son instead of screwing around like this, which you've been doing since you were 20 years old?